Welcome to Footprints of Pacifica. I'm Sharon Walker, your host. And each week, the Pacifica Historical Society produces a show, on the history of Pacifica. And this show is on the Pacifica Beach cleanups and how they came to be. If you came out to the recent Earth Day, it was an amazing event. There were over 7,000 people there. They picked up 13,000 pounds of garbage. And you may have asked yourself, how did this event become so big? How did it all start? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in this show. And my guests today are Penny Keating and Jerry Flynn. They have been involved with the environment here in Pacifica for a long time. So Jerry and Penny, welcome to Footprints of Pacifica.
Thank you. Thank you.
Penny, let's start out with you because you've been living here a long time. And how did you originally come to Pacifica?
Well, my father was an environmentalist and a naturalist. So living in San Francisco, we had lots of hills, but they were all surrounded by houses. So he was always looking for a place that was a little more rural. We did a lot of camping as kids, and a lot of hiking. And so this was just a wonderful place for him to help us to grow up with a real sense of the environment.
And is there one particular day when you went out and just started cleaning up the beaches?
Yes. I was living on the boat dock at Pedro Point, and it had been my husband's ritual to go at the end of a long, summery, warm day and see what was left behind by people. He managed to get quite a number of good towels out of that. So when we went out one summer evening, he started picking up litter, and I thought, well, this is great. We had been talking about all the litter on the beach, and we could actually pick up some of it and make a difference. That was quite a long time ago. I'm sure it wasn't the first time that people had picked up litter.
That's quite a beginning. Well, is there any one event that you think in Pacifica's history that kind of made people aware of how important our environment was here?
I think there was an oil spill in the 60s or early 70s, and I remember being in a golf range, little house that was in the Archdiocese property on Pedro Point and cleaning birds alongside Clark Natwick. That was my first instance of actually coming together with community to work on a big challenge that had come to our shores. But there was also 380 that was working on coming through Pacifica. There was the acquisition of Sweeney Ridge.
That was in 1984, I think, after like a 30-year battle.
For the GGNRA, yes. And then there was the sprawl that was taking place all around us, and especially down in Southern California. I think those situations made us more aware of how precious and how rich our environment was, and that we wanted to make sure that any development would come in a very thoughtful way.
And there were some of the environmental organizations that are around today that were around then. I think the Friends of Pacifica, and are there any others, Penny, that you know of?
Well, there were small groups in various neighborhoods working on on what was happening in their neighborhood that needed to be addressed. I think there was a group to save the hillsides in Pacifica.
Yes.
And I can't remember.
I think Pacificans United to Save the Hills, or something like that. Yeah.
And then it was quite a long time ago that Clark Natwick started working on the Dunes project. So
on the plant restoration, which he still works on today.
Right. So there were a number of things taking place here, there, and everywhere in Pacifica. Again, we were driving by this ocean and looking at these hills all the time, and it became more and more obvious we had a gem.
And at that time, you were involved with the schools. Your children were involved with the schools, and you were so you were connecting the kids probably with beaches and with the environment as well, were you not?
Right. I was living on the boat dock. Dick was fishing. I was helping him. We were very interested in the magic of the ocean. And when my kids went to school, it was at the Alternative. At that time, we were asked to share whatever resources we had with our kids. So of course I would bring the class down to the beach, and we'd do a lot of different activities. I'd worked in recreation a long time, so it was natural for me to do that. not long after that, we started doing beach patrols and bringing kids from all the classes down to the beach to pick up litter and to just become more aware of the changing landscape of the beach. It wasn't too long after that that the teachers at the alternative had a whale bus come to the school, and one of the teachers said, "You know, Penny, you could do this. You could probably do a better job of in our area. Well, why don't you think about doing an Oceans Week program here?"
And that was the beginning of Oceans Week, which still exists now at Ocean Shore School.
That's right.
And so, briefly tell us, what was Oceans Week all about?
Well,
and still is all about.
Yes, it started, I think it started about 1987. And we would decorate the halls, we would have questions everywhere, we cross-graded the kids, and so it was kind of an innovative program at that time to have the older kids working with the younger kids. We used ocean theme, and each year it was a little bit different theme: wetlands, deep ocean, mammals, our neighbors, and we would just submerge ourselves in everything ocean, through math, through science, through arts and crafts, through culture. And we also took kids out into the environment to work with them in the field and give them a sense of really where they were, thinking that this would be something, if they knew a lot about their own particular special place, that would transfer to realize that there are these places all over, and to recognize the really special and sacredness of the earth.
Well, there was an article here called Exploring the Oceans with the Laguna Salada Alternative class. And there is I want to read a quote here. It was, "We live right here on the edge of the continent," says parent and organizer Penny Keating, whose husband is a fisherman. "We're seeing the ocean and involved with it on a daily basis. It's one of the biggest natural wonders right here in our own backyard." So Oceans Week was really significant. And then the environmental family started about that time, did it not? And what was it all about? Because it's still around today.
The environmental family was an idea, I believe, by Ann Edminster to kind of bring all these little groups together. You know, there's so much to do when you're doing a volunteer group, and people have so many things going on in their lives. To get like the 501c3, the nonprofit designation, takes a lot of work. So that was one of Anne's ideas. But she also felt that it was time to bring more education, not just in the schools, but out into the general community. So the environmental family got involved in a number of different things. A Calera Creek project, and they used the Oceana kids to help set up nurseries to get the plants going to put into the Calera Creek. They did Milagro Ridge planting, they did a cob house building, non-poisonous bug removal. They had a lot of things going, and including the tunnel initiative.
Well, I know at that time also when the environmental family is an umbrella organization now for the Valleymar Conservators and for the Pacifica Gardens, for the beach restoration, and then also for the Pacifica Beach Coalition. Right. And so that kind of moves us into the Pacifica Beach Coalition. How did that actually begin, and what was the concept behind that?
We were already working with the beach in various ways with schools and whatnot, and we had a measure come before us to develop on the beach something that was called the Sea Garden. It was a music venue, some dining. I'm not quite sure what all else was there. Maybe some overnight kind of motelish kind of thing, but it was a little ambiguous. But the idea was they were going to kind of take over quite a bit, not only where the Fassler House was, which was their main site, but they were kind of looking at going all the way around the cove. Because they had to change zoning, this had to go before the people of Pacifica. So we got quite a group together to work on bringing information about this Sea Garden event. They put a lot of money into it, and we were just a volunteer group. And the word got out. People overwhelmingly defeated it. But during the time that we were working on this project, the opposition told us that our beach was pretty junky anyway, so what's the difference?
Yeah.
And that really encouraged Bernie Haller and I to get going, to get a bigger group together, a citywide group together to work on cleaning up that beach and possibly other beaches, but also to bring the beach plan, which had fallen into the cracks someplace, to the public awareness, and maybe get that going to beautify our beach.
And then at this point there was a meeting, and that brings Jerry into the picture, because at that point, Jerry, I think you were at the very first meeting of the Pacifica Beach Coalition.
Yeah, and I
correct?
didn't know that because I had just moved to Pacifica, so I just saw a clipping in the paper and came.
Well, Jerry, I know that you were one of the people that was involved with the Pacifica, the library project that did the Pacifica Stories of California. And so your story is part of that, and so we're going to play that right now, and so we will find out what your story is, and then we will pick up from there, and you will add to that. So if we could see Jerry's story, pick it up, Pacifica. Thanks.
California of the past.
I am California of the past. I am California of the past.
Hi, I'm Jerry Eaton Flynn, and I moved to Pacifica about 13 years ago. And I was opening up a new chapter, and I was at lost ends about what I was going to do with my life. And as soon as we moved to Pacifica, I took a walk on Sharp Park Beach, and I was taken in by the glory of it, but I was also truly alarmed by the degradation of it. I mean, there were plastic bags everywhere. So right there and then, I said, I'm going to have to do something about that. I was an ex-PR person, the slogan right away came to me, pick it up, Pacifica. And that became my driving force for the next few years. And lo and behold, I saw that the Pacifica Beach Coalition was holding a meeting. And I thought, well, that's like a possibility. So I went to the meeting. Luckily, the leader of the Pacifica Beach Coalition, Penny Keating, was very supportive of that idea also. And I talked to her about having kind of a side committee focused on cleanups. And she was all for that. And some of the other people at the meeting were for that. Anna Garcia and Jim Fithian were there, and June Langhoff. And she introduced me to Sharon Walker, and they both became core people to the group. Well, after that, I also saw that there was classes being held by Save Our Shores on marine ecology. So I decided to sign up for those classes. I went, and there I learned that plastic was a lot worse than just being unsightful, that there was a gyre out in the Pacific Ocean of plastic that was twice the size of Texas. I thought, okay, this is important stuff. Well, we created a program where the high school students were teaching elementary school students about the ocean environment, and then we'd end up the whole program with a beach cleanup. Roy Ernest, a local surfer and producer of Surfing for Life, a movie about older surfers, decided to start a surf contest for older surfers. And he wanted the profits from those surf contests to go towards cleaning the beaches. So he gave that over to our group, and we started hiring high school kids to clean the beaches during the summer, where we were finding it hard to get volunteers at that time. So from that point, I had some new health problems. And with those new health problems, I wasn't allowed to go on beaches anymore. And so I kind of had to close down my involvement somewhat in that process, and I handed it over to Lynn Adams, she's just done an amazing job at picking it up and driving it forward. And the beaches aren't perfect today. They're never going to be perfect, but they're a lot better. And not only have we focused on the beaches, but all of Pacifica, because we are just one big watershed, and a piece of litter up on the hills eventually makes it to our ocean. So I feel that now there has been a Pick It Up Pacifica in both awareness and in actuality of picking up the garbage. And now I feel like it's sustainable. And so next I have to write the next chapter in my book, and we'll see what that's going to be.
Well, Jerry, that's quite a story, and I think tell me what I'm holding here in my hands.
This was the first sign up from when we had that first cleanup meeting that specifically at the Beach Coalition for people who wanted to work on the cleanup, and all of them stayed involved until they either moved or they're still involved, including Jim Fithian.
And we've got some pictures, so we're going to show, and we have Jim Fithian and the that we're going to show, and who else?
Okay, so Jim Fithian, Anna Garcia, and Paul Hurley were on that first sign up, and they continue to hold beach cleanups. This has been more than 10 years now at Lindemar Beach every year. Other people on there were Diana Raymond, June Langhoff, and they've all been involved for a long time, Claudia Hansen.
Wow. Well, it's just, I know that there was an early attempt to spread the word of the PBC through a poster contest, wasn't there? So, Penny, I think you kicked that off, didn't you, with the poster contest?
Right. It was, we wanted to bring more kids into this awareness.
An article there on the screen showing it.
Yeah. So we went around to the schools and advertised that there was a poster contest, and the kids really went all out. We had quite a number of posters turned in, a whole wing of the Sanchez.
And we have an image of one of the winning posters right there on the screen.
Right,
yeah.
Yeah.
And then, Jerry, let's talk more about the schools and the Oceana program. Tell us about that. And we have a couple of images that we're going to bring up about those, some of the kids out there.
Well, it was really exciting. Again, I was just new to Pacifica, but I wanted to get involved, so I went to a STOP grant meeting, which is the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Program.
And this has some of the students that are with the Oceana program.
And at that grant meeting were some students from Oceana, and they weren't sure what they were going to do. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, so I said, let's work together. And we came up with this great program where we went to all the third grade classes throughout Pacifica and taught them about the harms of litter, and it was the high school students teaching the elementary school students, so the third graders loved it, and then we'd all go out and do a beach cleanup together.
Well, you and I were working together and went out several times with the third graders, and you were so right, the third graders loved it, and the high school, it was a wonderful rapport between them. Talking about fundraising, now tell us about those grants, and we have, I think, a couple images we're going to show about a grant that you facilitated. Tell us about that, Jerry.
I'm not sure which grant this is.
It's a STOP grant.
Okay,
yeah.
well, STOP has been very generous to the Pacifica Beach Coalition. If you come up with very specific things to help the ocean or to help the watersheds, they're very good at giving you, small amounts of money. I also won grants to get all of our modern garbage cans throughout Pacifica.
That's right.
And all of our ashtrays, too, or most of our ashtrays, that some of them have been replaced now.
Wow. Well, there was another program that I was involved with, the Salmon Trout Project, and we developed a storm drain stenciling program. And there are some images there. We stencil storm drains, and there's this image there on the screen. And Diana Raymond then was involved with that. We actually put together carts, and the students.
And our group worked with your group to help get more curb stenciled.
And then I think that you worked independently with that program and had some summer programs with students, didn't you not?
Well, at first we hired local high school students to clean the beaches in the summer, because generally you don't get as many volunteers then. And then we moved from the high school students to using students from Parker, which are disabled kids. And it was great for them. They loved having a paying job. They loved being interviewed for it. It really gave them a step into the working world.
Wow. What role do you feel that the renovation, now you talked about the beach plan, but then ultimately when there was funding, Jim Vreeland and Scott Holmes was involved. What was do you feel that that was instrumental in perhaps people becoming more aware and wanting to keep the beaches clean?
It was amazing how many more people were able to come to the beach over the hill. And with that, they had this wonderful vista.
Wow.
So between bringing more people to the beach, hiking and biking along that trail, and the renovation of the bathrooms was another big part of it.
And
So
we have
things look good. People want it to look better too.
Well,
I
we
think.
have a excerpt from one of the. I produced 3 shows on Pacifica Currents that I used to produce and host, and we have an excerpt from one of those shows with Jim Vreeland and Scott Holmes, and also Clark Natwick, who has been involved with plant restoration. So let's go to that video. Hear what they have to say about the beach plan.
Hi, I'm so happy to have Jim Vreeland here, our mayor, and Scott Holmes, Director of Public Works, and Julie Lancel, City Council. And so this is a really exciting morning, isn't it? Scott, I'm going to go to you here.
Okay, well, it's great to have everybody here. It looks like there's about 70 volunteers, and we're trying to put in about 1,500 plants today, and totally, by the time we're done, about 15,000 plants. And it's a dune. It's a restoration of the dune field that was broken when some houses were built in the late 30s. They pushed the sand on to the sides, left a blowout that was blowing out onto the highway. So last week we kind of pushed that all back, and the volunteers are planting it this week.
That's great. And Jim, you've been so instrumental in this whole project. Could you just kind of let us know how you're feeling about it and what's going on?
Oh, Sharon, it's amazing. It's been, for us, probably 5 years in the making, 10 years the community put the plan together. And to have, I think it's more, probably close to 100 folks out here planning this small section of the restoration project's amazing. And if you look over here to the left, you also see the beginning of where the rest of the coastal trail is going to be.
Jim Vreeland and I are here with Clark Natwick, and Clark is basically the environmental family. So, Jim, would you like to just make a comment about Clark before I have Clark chat with us?
Absolutely. I just wanted to thank Clark Natwick for the work he's done, not only with the environmental family, but also the Native Plant Society. And really, this is a big part to do of the work today, is them coming together and helping us plant. We were talking with Scott before. Some 1,500 plants if we can get that done today, and 15,000 plants as we finish out the project. So it's really exciting. And so I just wanted to thank Clark and all of the Native Plant Society for the work they're doing. And maybe Clark can say a few words to folks.
For sure, of course, because this is what he is all about.
Yeah. Well, this is the 7th year that we've done our beach planting, and it's just tremendous to be able to be on the beach. You know, it's such a wonderful place to be, and to see the work received and so well by so many people coming out today makes me feel really good also. And I'm really grateful to Jim for all the work he's done. I know that 3 or 4 years ago he started beach community meetings to talk about it, and gradually developed the ideas that here we're going to benefit. We're going to have the best beach around, and I'm really happy to be a tiny part of it.
How many different groups, Scott, are working on this project?
Well, there's the Beach Task Force, which has been meeting together. It's been almost 3 years now. Then there's there's actually a beach coalition. Then there's the Watershed Coalition. There's Native Plant Society, Fort Funston Help. Then there's a variety of private contractors that are working. There's actually 9 granting agencies that are putting together funds for it. There's about 25 review public agencies permitting the project. So it's a pretty involved system for, when you think about it, just restoring some bathrooms, some dunes in a creek, the complexity is enormous, bureaucratically and even technically. So
Environmental Family is involved as well, isn't it?
Environmental Family is involved as well. Excuse me. They've been great in terms of the plan. They organized the volunteer day, and it's been a very solid community group for years. So, yeah.
Well, that highlighted a number of people who are involved, Clark and Jim Vreeland and Scott. And I know there are so many people involved that we can't possibly in this show mention them, but there are a couple other people you want to mention quickly that have been involved in particularly with the beach aspect of our environmental movement.
Well, June Langhoff was one in the
June
beginning.
Langhoff, right.
Mike Vasey had some involvement in it. Gosh, there were so many people involved in some aspect of environmentalism in Pacifica.
Roy Ernest in helping us fundraise for years and years.
And he's now the president of the environmental family.
Of the environmental family. He took it over from me, thank God.
Well, I know that Lynn Adams is the current president, and she's
of the
she's
Pacifica
an
Beach
amazing
Coalition,
job. And she has she's continued on the path that you both created. What are your thoughts about things or how things are going now?
Well, I think things, I'm happy to see how education has taken place and so many more people care about the ocean. So I think that's very, very positive. Back when I was talking about plastics and the dangers of them, I had the city council calling me names and people writing letters to the editor saying I was a watermelon head, red on the inside and green on the outside. Now I think it's a very positive attitude that the city council takes to that and people in general. I just always worry it's too late because I'm basically a pessimist.
Penny, how about you?
Well, Lynn has just been dynamite. She has so much energy and focus, and she's really been able to rally people more at a time when sustainability and environmentalism, we are recognizing more and more, is absolutely critical. I have fears, as Jerry does sometimes, that I hope it's not too late, but I also have a hope that that we can come to many new ways of doing things, and we'll be able to carry on in a more sustainable way.
Well, the Pacifica Beach Coalition and the Environmental Family are very vital organizations now. They were from their onset, and so I think we're going to bring up their lower thirds right now. So if people want to contact them, they can. And so much is what has taken place in the environmental movement in Pacifica is a result of volunteerism. And I want to thank you and Penny and you, Jerry, for all that you've done, and everyone else. We don't intend on mentioning all those names, but it's incredible what's happening here. I think we have a very unique community. And I also want to thank Helen James for her contribution to this show. She's working camera. She is a volunteer all over the city, and Steve Brown, who did the editing. So we work together here in this community to bring this all together, and we keep seeing it over and over again. The thread that continues on, in the beginning, a lot of groups were working in isolation, and now they're not. They're all coming together. So thank you for viewing this episode of this particular show. We hope that it's been interesting and educational for you. If you want to get involved with the Pacifica Historical Society, contact us at 359-5462 or check out our website. And thank you for watching. And in the words of the late Frank Winston, lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints in the sand of time.